Hi, I'm Josh Cadillac, and welcome to my podcast, Know Your Shit. I've been blessed to see great success, as well as seeing the bottom up close and personal in 2008. And if there's one lesson I've learned, is that if you want to have success and differentiate yourself from everyone else out there, you need to know your shit. As a successful real estate and crypto investor and an educator, it drives me insane that people do not immerse themselves in their craft. Everyone is so busy advertising and testing new sales techniques, they forget the most important thing, the product. Here I want to talk to the folks that got this right, the most successful people in the world in every industry. Bring them to you and find out what they learned in their business that made it great. When you listen to my podcast, you will know for sure that the topics and experts we have on have one thing in common. They know their shit. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Know Your Shit podcast, where our knowledge and pride in what we do drives us to be excellent. My name is Josh Cadillac, and I'll be in the driver's seat for today's show as we strive to learn how to stop doing deals and start closing for life. We have a great show for you today, and we have a great guest here, and I'm so happy to have him. Jeff, thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, Josh, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to get to talk to you.
Always fun. Always is. Love it. Love it when we get a chance to sit down and just chat together, because you're such an interesting guy to talk to. So maybe the place to go, because I know you, but the people listening don't. So why don't you tell folks what it is you do?
First and foremost, I own an insurance brokerage company. We do business all over the country. We do insurance for different markets, first responders being police, fire, EMS. That's a major part of our business, but we also do boutique type needs for wealthier type people. And, it's one of those deals, Josh, it's the smallest part of our business, but the most profitable part is that 90-10 rule, just like everything else. Yep. And we're in all different kinds of markets. We have thousands of agents in all different states. And people ask me all the time, well, what do you do? Well, I don't really tell them that I sell insurance, because I actually haven't written an insurance policy in probably 20 years. And that's important, because when someone asks you what you do, tell them what it is that you actually do. And what I do is I work with the top salespeople to make them even better salespeople. And fortunately, that has lended itself beyond my insurance business to other areas of, real estate. We coach attorneys, business people, ladies trying to get relationships back with their husbands, and God knows everything in between.
Sure. No, it's really amazing, because the more coaching that I've done, I see that to be true across the board. I'll have somebody that approaches me for coaching on real estate, and next thing you know, it's coaching on relationships. It's coaching on, because the things that are broken, the way they manifest themselves is throughout people's lives, and they don't realize it. And we're all sort of just trying to take and sort through all this junk we have to take and make the best of ourselves.
Absolutely. And it's all about relationships, Josh.
Sure.
It's all about relationships, business, personal. The most important relationship you can have, in my humble opinion, is the relationship you have with yourself.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. I have salespeople. In fact, this happened today. I had a Zoom call. I had a bunch of my sales guys on there, and this one guy, you can tell, has no confidence whatsoever. And he's super frustrated because his sales aren't where they need to be and whatnot. And I just bluntly said to him, why would anybody have any confidence in you when you obviously have no confidence in yourself? And that's the key. You always see, like, there was always that guy back in school. I was not that guy, but you saw this, that guy who was getting all the girls, getting into all the parties, getting into everything. And it didn't necessarily mean that guy was the smartest or the best looking or whatever, not the best in shape, but he was certainly the one that believed in himself the most.
Sure. And
110%.
And how to do that well, because there's like the believe in yourself to a fault kind of person that no matter what happens, they keep trying to do this thing that they're not that well suited to do. And there's that healthy belief in yourself where I find for a lot of my people, I don't know if this is what you find as well, Jeff, it's almost because of garbage in their past that keeps them from believing in themselves. I have to almost take them on a history lesson and show them their own history to show them they're actually a much more accomplished person than they recognize. Like they've done a lot to get to where they are.
But people don't want to look at the good things. They only want to dwell on the few bad things.
And
that's the problem.
I agree. There's almost like two extremes. There's people that think they can do no wrong in the world and they need a reality check. And then there's the other group of people that think they can do nothing right in the world and they also need a reality check because you know what? We're all somewhere in the middle and hopefully we're striving to be some sort of a better version of ourselves. If we're not, we're really missing out in the boat.
Yeah. I mean, again, the same Zoom call I was on today, there was this guy super frustrated because he lost a deal because the electronic application process that the insurance company used got delayed, and he claims it pissed the customer off, which I don't think is true. But that's all he could talk about was how that one system failed and it cost him money. And I asked him, how many times have you done this and it worked? He says, well, I said, well, I can tell you how many times because I'm looking at it right now. 319 times. You've used this 319 times. You're not dwelling on how flawlessly it worked then. All you're doing is beating me up on this one that you lost now.
Well, see, I mean, I like to say, for me, customer interactions, especially in my business in real estate, it's a lot like dating, right? And I say that because, you're talking to the customer's trying to figure out whether they want to hang out with you. You're trying to figure out whether you want to hang out with this customer anymore. Like there's this whole sniffing out process. And I ask agents a lot of times when I teach, I say, anybody ever been on a date with somebody and everything's going fine and they're super nervous? Like they're tense. How do you feel? Well, you're nervous. You're tense because they're tense. Anybody ever been on a date where things don't go perfectly? Maybe you get a flat tire, the reservation's not ready when you get there, and the other person's just super chill with it. They're cracking jokes. How do you feel? The thing that largely dictates the perception of the customer, whether the customer is going to get upset about stuff, is how you handle it. If you handle it, if you're at peace with the fact that you're bringing a good thing to market, that the relationship that you're providing is a good one, there's not really this need to take and freak out over every little thing that goes sideways.
No. And, I also believe too, that, however you're feeling, it doesn't matter if you're doing a deal or if you're going out on a date or whatever it is that you're projecting on yourself is going to get projected to the other person.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
It's that is 100% true. I'll give you a great example. We had an insurance product years ago that, everyone was selling, it was going great. And this insurance company came out with a lesser expensive product. Now, and insurance is just like real estate. It's a commission business. So the less the money is, the less money you're going to make. Mm-hmm. And so it's not like people keep up with what's going, John Q. Public doesn't keep up with what's going on in the insurance business.
Right.
So you would have someone showing the product that he or she had always shown, but somewhere in here, they thought that the person they were talking to had this Superman X-ray vision and could see beyond them, the walls of the house, and into the car at this cheaper product that was laying on the back seat.
Yeah.
So
I get you.
So what happened was a lot of these guys were either missing sales or even worse, they were selling them the cheaper product. They were making less money and having to work twice as hard only because of what they were projecting.
Absolutely. Dating analogies are always my favorite because it's always a tense thing for most people. And the idea, like when I went out, could this be the one when I have in the mind, myself, do I smell? If I'm worried about all that stuff, as opposed to, I'm going to go out and meet somebody new today. Let's see how things go. Could be fun. Yeah. And worst comes to, how bad could they be? Like if I'm in that headspace and just trying to take and make a new friend, and hey, if something happens, great. It completely changes all the pressure and everything I'm putting on myself to come from this place of, you know what? Let's see if Even if it's a bad situation, let's make the best out of a bad situation, because I like making the best out of a bad situation. Like, hey, we don't get along at all, but as it turns out, she loves ice cream and I love ice cream. Let's go get some ice cream and let's take and pull a win out of the jaws of defeat, right? I mean, like, keep it simple. And
the bad situations too, Josh, are where you learn the most things.
Oh my gosh, man.
And in dating, certainly it's where you get the funniest stories to tell.
Oh man, the best stories do come. Let me tell you what a bonehead I was, and let the stories continue. It's true. It's so true. But there's that place, and it stinks, right? Because what's the saying? Smart people learn from mistakes, wise people learn from mistakes that other people make. We don't really grow as people from the good times. And I wish we did. I mean, it would be great. And I mean, I try, like, I really do. I make the effort to try to be that wise person that'll learn from other people's mistakes. Hey, don't do that. I'm not going over there. Right. But it's still, nothing grows you like going through the pain and suffering and making the mistakes, but you got to take and pull out of those mistakes what the win is, the piece of information, the knowledge that you can get from it. If you just sit in there and keep beating your head against the wall, making the same dumb mistakes over and over and over again, that's not growth.
That's the definition of insanity.
It is.
Yeah.
It really, really is. So yeah. I know that we could go on about this for a long time, because it seems like we're definitely in the same space on this, but let's take folks back to the beginning, Jeff. What got you started doing this?
Well, getting in the insurance business is, I believe that's something everyone just kind of either falls into or whatever, because, there's no 6 or 7 year old kid. I've got small grandchildren. None of them are, they all want to be a cop, or they want to be a cowboy, or they want to be Superman, or God knows what. None of them want to do what I do. Yeah. So it's not something that somebody really grows up wanting to do. But the Cliff Note version, I had a previous business that because of what we were doing, they were requiring us to put life insurance on the deals. We were leasing medical equipment, construction equipment, and whatnot. And as the deals were getting bigger and bigger, we were selling the paper to the banks. The banks wanted life insurance on these lessees. With commercial money, you can require that. Consumer money, you can't. So we started doing that. And then my business partner that I had at the time knew someone that was in this business, and we were referring all this business over to him, and we had no idea how much money was in it. And then when we found out, we're like, screw this guy. We're going to go get an insurance license and do it ourselves. So that's, in a nutshell, that's how we got into it.
So basically started doing it for yourself as a side.
Started doing it for ourselves. Yeah. And then in 99, I sold that company. And my business partner was a lot older than me. He retired. And so I was still in my 30s at the time. So I'm like, I got to do something. So I really enjoyed the insurance part of it. And by comparison of what I was doing, it was really easy to do. Yeah. It's a lot easier to get someone a $100,000 life insurance policy than it was to finance them a $200,000 bulldozer. Yeah. So, I got into that business, and kind of the model was the same. We were dealing with brokers then with the leasing business, and we deal with brokers on the insurance side. So it was just dealing with a different group of people selling a different product, but the relationships with both the customers and the brokers, all that remained the same. In fact, I think actually in insurance, the relationships matter even more so.
I would agree with that 100%. Yeah. But I think in any sales business, if you want to take and build any kind of sustainable business, it's got to be about the relationships. We've gotten away as a culture so far away from being people's guy, their guy in the X industry. Oh, you need a guy in real estate? I got a guy. You got to use my guy. You need a guy in insurance? I got an insurance. You got to go to my insurance guy. We become so transactional, and it's the thing that eats my soul alive, if I'm going to be honest, Jeff, is the fact that people don't recognize their value to the transaction. The transaction should be about the fact that I'm involved, that the fact that I'm involved in the transaction should add value and weight to the transaction, because I can make that be the case. I can go out there and fight to get them a better deal than they thought they could get. I can go in there and do the work to separate myself from everybody else in the industry so that they actually just enjoy doing it because they enjoy working with me. I can give my customers that kind of experience. And it's not just about achieving, in both of our cases, actually, it's a similar thing, getting the product. For me, getting a piece of property, for you getting the actual policy, there can be more to it than just the getting of the thing. And we sell ourselves so short when we take it and make ourselves nothing more than facilitators of a transaction. It's not what the customer wants, really.
No, that all begins, Josh, with knowing what your value is.
Sure.
Is what knowing what it is, because you better believe every person that you talk to does not want you to know your value. They want to make sure that they can buy you for less.
Sure.
I'll give you a great example. I have a house here in Tampa that is not listed with any realtors, and no offense to the realtors. The experiences I've been having lately, I don't want to list it with anyone.
I understand.
My neighbor had asked me for if he had a friend that was wanting to buy a house, could I share my number? I told him, yeah, fine, go ahead and do it. And all of a sudden I've had half a dozen realtors call me up. I know what my house is worth. And I'm actually asking a little bit less than what's fair and whatnot. But every phone call I get from a realtor is they don't want me to know what the value of my house really is. They all want to buy it for so much less, but I just don't do it because there is somebody out there that will pay that price.
Sure.
There always is. There's as my mother says, there's a lid for every pot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's to me is really where people, it's a perfect example of the transactional nature of how businesses become. They want to score big with your listing. They want to get that listing and they want to score a commission.
Yeah.
If I was going to call you up, I'm not going to look to score your listing. That's not my interest. I want to score a customer for life. I want to be the only person that you're ever going to do real estate with ever. So if that means that I have to tell you, hey, Jeff, I know you think that's the number for the house. I'm willing to try it. I don't see the cut, but let's do it. So if I can't get it sold, it is what it is. No risk, no harm, no foul. But I don't ever want to be the person that's just trying to take and do a deal with anyone.
So on a personal note, this just happened a week ago. This lady calls me up and she tells me that she's a buyer's agent and she wants to show someone my house. And I said, that's fine. Come over. I've not signed any agreements with her or anything. She never talked commissions, nothing. They come over to the house. She brings this guy, we show him around, takes like an hour because it's a pretty big house. And I guess her buyer picked up one of my business cards that was laying around on the kitchen counter or something. He calls me the next day. You know where I'm going with this.
I do.
And to be honest with you, even though it would save me money not to deal with this realtor and whatnot, if he's willing to do that, is, he's compromising some ethics here.
Big time.
To me, that's beyond money. Now, I don't know if he has anything signed with this realtor or not, and I don't care.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Okay, it doesn't matter. The fact that he reached out and did that does not set well with me.
I don't blame you.
And the realtor calls me up and she's trying to beat me up on the house. And I said, your customer just called me direct. And he's wanting to cut you out and whatnot. And I said, to be honest with you, I don't want to deal with either one of you.
Yeah.
I said, because I don't, it's just gotten too crazy. Now, am I wrong in thinking this way?
I don't know that you're wrong in thinking this way. I mean, as an agent, I have no control over what that customer does. And honestly, what I have to do with you on the way in order to be really above board is I have to have that conversation with you and say, hey, look, Jeff, I've showed it my people, everything else in the neighborhood. They want to come see your house.
Yeah.
If I'm going to do that, is that okay? Is that okay with you? And what price should I tell them? Because I know that, I have to get a commission and we have to figure that out. And I need to get an okay from you. So that would be a conversation I'd have to have with you before I show the house to take and make sure, according to what the rules say, that's what I'm supposed to do. The fact that she didn't wasn't the best for her, but the fact you respected the fact that she didn't, and she just came in and try to sell your house. I mean, it's definitely a better, it's a messy conversation that has to be had.
Oh, I couldn't believe that she would actually drive this guy around without some sort of agreement with him already, which I don't know. I'm not in your business. I don't know.
No, it's a good point, Jeff. And the reality of it is the issue really stems from the fact that if you kick over a rock, 4 realtors crawl out.
Yeah.
And so the customer is of the opinion, because look, one of the classes I teach is a class I teach called Buyer's Agent Boot Camp. And it is 100% how to make sure that you lock that buyer in so that buyer never tries to do what that buyer just tried to do. How to position yourself in such a way that that customer is not going to try to do that. Now, the problem is, as the ego size increases with the buyer customer, the likelihood of them doing that because they think they know better than you. And let's be honest, when it comes to real estate agents, a really savvy buyer does know more than most agents do.
Yeah.
I try to put myself in a position that I'm never going to have a customer that knows more than I do about the business, because I understand this is what I eat, live, breathe, and sleep for a living. If some novice comes in and knows more about it than me, obviously my value to the customer is what, right? And so it's on me to make sure that I bring that kind of value every single day with everything that I do. And I need to be making that case on the way in the door, because just like I'm talking to you right here, Jeff, you have an experience and a preconceived notion. When you hear somebody's a real estate agent, you think something about them. It's just like when somebody finds out they're an insurance
and I know that's wrong, because not all of them are that way.
It's okay. Look, look, the idea, this PC world we live in, where it's like you can't prejudge people, bullshit. You don't believe that people prejudge. I'm gonna make it nice and easy. You need a last minute. I say this in class all the time. You need a last minute babysitter. The babysitter just canceled. You gotta go to this thing. You need a babysitter. Is the first stop you make that biker bar on the corner right by your house to find a babysitter? No. You know what? You just prejudged the maternal instincts of everyone in that bar without having met them. You've never walked a mile in their shoes, but you have a preconceived notion of what bikers are like. So guess what? If you do that, do you think your customer is so much morally superior to you that they don't do the exact same thing to you? You're getting judged constantly. So just be okay with it. I tell my agents, you are working your way out of a well. When you start, you're at the bottom of a well trying to work your way out just to be in flush and level with the customer because of how bad all the other agents are out there. So be at peace with it.
Well, people are going to judge you no matter what. And in this case, Josh, I practiced what I preach to all my agents. And that is, if you have to stop and wonder if something is right or wrong or ethical or not, walk away.
Yeah.
Walk away.
Yeah. No, it's
so
not.
that's what I did. And, I could be walking away from the best offer that I get, but, I just feel better about it, because having that over my head is just something I just don't want.
No, I don't blame you.
It's not worth it to me.
Ethics is the study of how human beings, the behaviors that allow human beings to best flourish.
Yeah, because if he's willing to circumvent his realtor, then once he inks a contract with me, what other kind of shit is he going to pull?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be all the way to the closing and then some. And it's just not worth it. And you're absolutely right, Jeff. I mean, that's what we run into all the time, sadly. And it's the nature of the business, unfortunately. So
what you're saying though about being knowledgeable about everything, getting, you know your shit, but it's getting your shit together and always having your shit together, because I saw it in a movie one time, is that fortune favors the prepared mind.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And the more, and there's so many people out there that just aren't prepared for the things that they have to do. It wasn't long ago. I had to, I was a witness in a lawsuit, and I had to go do a sworn deposition. I literally spent a week, actually over a week. I read 3,000 pages of testimony. I read the complaints. I read everything. And so when I started getting deposed, I was like quoting people and doing all this stuff. And one of the attorneys said, I've never seen anyone this prepared for a deposition ever. And I've been practicing law for 30 years. I said, well, I just assumed that's what you're supposed to, because I'd never given one before.
Yeah.
But that's the thing though, is that the more prepared you are, the more you know your shit about your product, the more you know your shit about, what it is that you're doing and whatnot, the more money you're going to make at the end of the day. Because if you know your shit, people are going to know it. They're going to recognize it.
It comes through. It comes through in everything you say. And one of the things, and especially for newer agents, I don't care what business you're in, the rule that I always have in my basic class that I teach is you have my full permission to say, I don't know to something once. Because you know what? In insurance, in real estate, it's such a big field. There's no way to know everything. But once you say, I don't know to it once, you now know you don't know it.
Yeah.
You never say, I don't know to the same thing twice. That is the rule, right?
Yeah.
So if you know you don't know something, your job, your mission is to go find the answer to that question and never get caught short again. And if you're just continuously doing this,
that's a damn good rule to have.
I'd never say I don't know to something twice.
Yeah. That's a damn good rule to have, because the first time you don't know, the second time you're not prepared.
That's right. That's right.
At the end of the day.
Because my customer is the one that keeps the lights on.
Yeah.
And if I'm not the best suited person to take and help them out there, then why the hell should they deal with me? They should be dealing with somebody else that's better prepared.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And it seems, cold and hard, but look, at the end of the day, this thing that you do for a living is going to take up a major part of your life. Why wouldn't you commit yourself to do it well? Why wouldn't you turn your business, the very thing that you're going to spend 40, 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week doing? Why wouldn't you make it something that you can be proud of how well you do it? Doing anything less than that is actually cheating yourself out of the kind of life that most people would most want to have, which is a life of excellence throughout every part of their life. Excellence is something that has to be pursued. It doesn't come easily. You got to pursue excellence with everything you have in everything you do. And the net result is a life that you're much happier to be part of. The big net winner is you always when that happens.
Yeah. If you don't, I tell people, if you don't pursue your dreams, your dreams are what's going to go with you to the grave.
That's right. You leave your magnum opus in you. You never get
it. Exactly. If you don't do it, because you only get one shot, man.
That's it. And, Jeff, I ask agents all the time when especially at the beginning of classes, I'll say, who here would agree that there's a better version of you still inside of you? And people think for a second, and pretty much every hand goes up. I said, by the way, if your hand's not up, what you just told me is that you've peaked and it's all downhill from here for you. So are you willing to concede that your life is just a straight trip down to the freaking hole, to the ground at this point? Because you're done. I got people in their 90s with their hands up, right? That there's still a better version in there.
It's a constant pursuit. A lot of people, it's constant. If you go out, if you're a real estate agent, if you go out and you're making $10 million a year, that's great. But if you think you know everything, you don't. I read 3 or 4 books every month, because if you don't keep your mind fresh about new things, or even right now I am reading probably one of the most difficult books I've ever read. And you're going to laugh, but it's a book on marketing, and it was written by a guy who wrote, the book is like 60 years old. And the guy was a copywriter, and he wrote all the ad copy for all these cigarette companies. He's actually the guy that came up with, I'd walk a mile for a camel. But so if you don't, now fortunately I'm old enough, I understand a lot of the stuff in there, but someone that's probably in their 20s, if they're reading it, it would be like trying to read Japanese, because there's so many references in there that no one would understand. But the principles of what he talks about are timeless.
Sure.
Because he says that, people, they talk about all these things about people changing. People don't change.
No,
they really don't. People don't change. Circumstances change.
Yep.
Environments change, but the basic needs of people never change, and they won't until the end of time.
I agree. And I think that, there's a word that you used earlier, and I want to bring it back because it ties together very much with the idea that you just had, which is that people don't change. What the human experience is doesn't change. And that word is pursuit. One of the cool things about the founders of this country was just how well read and well studied they were. And they gave us the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the way they understood pursuit of happiness was different than, like, for us, it's like the pursuit of hedonism, the pursuit of parties and having a good time. Yeah. The idea they had of the pursuit of happiness, if they were to define it, it's actually the pursuit of the joy one gets from a life well lived.
Yeah.
The pursuit of the good stuff. And so,
and think about this, the people that drafted that document back then were in their late 20s and 30s. Imagine what people in their 20s and 30s would draft today.
Oh my, look, you read what John Quincy Adams was writing to John Adams about, how he's like 10 years old and making fun of how his mind wanders while reading Latin and translating the works of Herodotus into, it's just like, what? This is a 10-year-old. You're out of your mind.
Now they're like, I can't Instagram and TikTok at the same time.
Yeah. These are the first world problems. What we've done is and part of it's probably because we live a lot longer, but we've delayed how quickly people have to grow up. And I think it's to people's detriment. I can behave like a child. Believe me, don't let the put together nature fool you. You send me to a theme park, man, and I'm riding the roller coasters with the 6-year-old screaming my brains out, having a blast. Yeah. But that's a switch that I can turn on and I can turn off as I have to, as I need to. The fact that you make people have to grow up and teach them to have that capacity to clean up after themselves, and there's other people in the world, and to be responsible. My father put me to work when I was 9 years old. It's one of the things I'm most grateful for in my life. As a little kid, he gave me a job.
When I was a kid, my dad was a business owner, and he worked my ass off. He was a rough, tough guy.
Mine too.
And I've told this story before, but when I talking about growing up fast, when I was 18 years old, the day I graduated high school, Josh, that morning he walks in my bedroom and he has this Tom McCann shoebox that I still have. It's sitting in my closet. And he says, "You're graduating today, right?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I am." He gives me the shoebox, and this was 1982. It had $25,000 in cash in it, that was quite a package.
Sure.
He says, "This is where my responsibilities for you end."
Whoa.
He says, "There's $25K in here. You can go to college." Now you could do 6 years of college back then on $25K. He says, "You can go to college, you can start a business, you can go to Vegas and blow it all on horse if you want to, whatever you want to do. But until the day I die, this is the only thing that you're ever getting from me." And then he turns around and I'm like in shock. And he says, "Oh, you have 3 days to get the hell out of my house." That was the last night I ever slept under his roof.
Huh.
That was the last night I ever slept under his roof.
Wow.
And so that's how I got started.
And let me ask you a question. That seems super harsh, super hard, super harsh. Was there value in that for you?
Oh yeah.
Right.
You talk about a wake-up call.
Yeah, man.
You talk about a wake-up call. That's a wake-up call.
Yeah. No,
now, a lot of people, if their father were to give them that kind of money, they go buy a car, they go do it. But I'm like, no, this is it.
This is it. Yeah. I gotta
and he was, and he was not a guy that went back on what he said.
Yeah.
If he told me that he was going to kick my ass, then he was going to kick my ass. There was no, I was just kidding, or he would forget about it. He didn't forget about shit.
Yeah.
So if he told me he was going to do something, or if he wasn't going to do something, that was etched in stone. It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
It was, he always followed up on what he said he was going to do. So I knew that promise that he made to me was solid and concrete. So down the road, when I had my leasing company, I kind of had that perfect storm to where anything that could have went wrong. We've all been there.
Yeah.
It was just a cornucopia of problems.
Yeah.
And I was this close to losing everything: business, house, wife, everything.
Mhm.
And I knew that my father could easily write a check and get me out of it.
Mhm.
So I went to him, and this was actually he was real hard guy to talk to. This was actually the best conversation that I ever had with him. He listened. He was empathetic. And I'm telling him everything that happened. He's like, wow, yeah. He says, I understand. That's really bad. He says, well, I've made a decision. I'm going to help you. I said, really? He said, yeah. He says, you know what I'm going to do? I said, what? He says, not a goddamn thing. He says, you were big enough to get in it. You're big enough to get out of it. Stop your crying and go fix it. And I did.
You know, and I know there's people that listening to this and they're like
Yeah.
absolutely horrified. And my father told me that when he graduated from military school, his father came, and now there's kids getting cars, there's kids getting airplanes, all this kind of stuff. His father brought him a box, and inside the box was a set of overalls and some work shoes. And he said, everything, every car, every plane, everything you'll ever need is found in that box right there. And, you know, we sit back and we look at this, and, you know, I don't necessarily know. I know in my father's case, those lessons, I don't think were the easiest to teach, because there's a part of him that wanted to step in and help. You know, I know my father loved me, but I think that he knew the best thing he could possibly do for me was
He did the best thing for you.
he did the best thing that he could possibly do.
Yeah.
It was his way of actually investing in my future, so that I was going to be capable of handling what came along. And that's huge. It really, really is.
So, you know, one day, you know, I have 3 children. They're all grown. I've helped them all. You know, the fact that they all graduated from college with no student loans and had titles to their cars, they're ahead of 99% of everyone else anyway. And so, you know, a few of them had, you know, little problems. I'd help them with this, help them with that. And one day I'm like, I'm not helping them.
Yeah.
I'm no longer, and I had to let them know, I'm no longer your backstop. I'm not paying for your sins anymore.
Yeah.
You're, you know, you committed the sin, you fix it. I'm not going to do it anymore. And I often say, I would never let one of my children sink, but damn, I will let them flap in the wind for a long time, because it's the only way you learn anything.
It is
the only way you get any value out of it.
And if we're gonna ask to pull the curtain back for a second, it's got to be hard. It's got to be hard sitting on the sidelines and watching them. And, you know, I think because when you talk about your dad, I can see my dad when you're talking about your dad. And, you know, to me, they were a very quiet group. They kind of kept it well under the radar and stuff like that. But I think in my own, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think it had to eat at their soul as well to take and watch, you know, the people they care about squirm. But they knew that the road to us being the best possible people we could be was going through the fire.
Well, I have to tell you, if it ate at my dad's soul, he did a great job of hiding it.
Maybe so. Maybe so. You know, I know that with my dad, you know, hearing "I'm proud of you" or "good job" were words that, yeah.
I never got that in my life.
Yeah, I think I got it once.
Never.
And you know, but the standards in my family were excellence.
Yeah,
nothing short of that. And it made me learn to push. And I'm so glad that I did, because I was a lazy little kid. I was a lazy little kid until I learned how to push and how to get out of me what I needed to. But I, as I said, I know on these topics we could go. So let me ask you this: where do you think, in looking at it now, where do you think all the success came from for you? What was the thing that kind of took you from that dark place where you needed, you know, where we're looking, even going back to your dad for help, to where did it switch?
That's actually at the point, Josh, where it did switch, because I knew that no one was going to pull me out of that hole but me.
Yeah.
And part of the problem that I had, part of what created the issue that I had. Part of it was, again, it's like dealing with this realtor and the buyer. If you think there's something fishy, don't do it. Well,
Yeah.
it was really more trying to appease the opinions of other people, to thinking that if I had a problem that they would bail me out or they would lend support and whatnot. When I had the problem, these people were nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Absolutely nowhere. And actually, sadly enough, I found out that the people that I had looked up to were actually worse off than I was. They just really hit it.
Hit it better.
Yeah, they hit it better. And I realized that the only person that I really need to impress in this world is myself.
Sure.
If you impress yourself, you don't have to worry about impressing anybody.
Absolutely.
Because as you said in the beginning, people are constantly going to judge you no matter what. So if that's going to happen, do your thing, because the only person that you really need to impress is yourself. The only respect in this world that matters is self-respect.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's the only respect that counts.
Everything else comes from that. I mean, I was just talking to somebody the other day, one of my coaching students, and he was telling me, I had a pretty good week. I didn't do this one thing. I said, whoa, wait a second. Last week you said you were going to do this thing. Well, I was on vacation. You told you were going to get something done, and you lied to you. How in what universe is you lying to you? Okay. You've just set yourself up as a liar to yourself. I tell myself, I'm the kind of person, I say I'm going to do it. I do it, even if nobody else knows it but me, because I told me I was going to do it. I'm worth holding up my end of the bargain for.
Because every time you break a promise to yourself, a little bit of your self-esteem whittles away.
Absolutely.
A little bit of your confidence corrodes.
Absolutely.
It's like if you're on a diet and you're eating all paleo, and your wife brings home some donuts, and you're looking at them and no one's home, and you're like, oh shit, that looks good. Well, it's just one. Well, that just one will become just two, and then it'll become just three. And then, all your confidence that you had in yourself up to that point is not just shattered, it's gone.
Yep. And
you have to start all over.
We define ourselves to ourselves with the decisions that we make.
Yeah.
And, there's a book that I love. The book is called Wild at Heart. It's a religious book, but it talks about being.
I've read that book. It's great.
It's a great book. And the one line that I really love in that book was, he says, talking about men, he says, every man wants to be William Wallace, the guy that they're sitting there cutting him open, tearing his guts out, and he's got one last middle finger for the guy that's doing it. Like, you take and tear me to pieces, and I'm going to hold. But every one of us fears in our soul that we're the Bruce. We're the guy that comes up, sees the enemy troops, and takes our guys and runs home.
Yeah.
And every single day, the decisions you make you more and more like William Wallace, or more and more like the guy that's going to run away. And it's the choices we make on a daily basis that defines us to us. I'm the kind of guy that I never fill in the blank, or I'm the kind of guy that always fill in the blank. And you can't understate that. And the work to fix that is on a daily basis, on a decision by decision basis that we have to make. It's the only way they can change that.
And, at the end of the day, it's like at 2:00 in the morning, you hear someone in your house. Are you going to crawl under the bed? Or are you going to get a baseball bat and beat the shit out of them?
That's right. Right. Who are you going to be? Who are you going to be? You know what?
Yeah, I mean, and society builds a lot of this stuff. Now, my wife, God bless her family, they live in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And they have all kinds of weapons, and thank God they haven't had to use them, because they really haven't had any trouble where they are.
Yeah.
But they're ready to do anything and everything to protect their house and whatnot.
Sure.
Thank God nothing like that's ever happened here. Sure. But how do you think people would react to that? I hope I never live to find that out.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, Eastern Europe has had, especially Ukraine, has had a much rougher road to hoe than just about any country. Ukraine has had a very, very rough history in general. And so the people are in Eastern Europe in general are much harder people. Their willingness to take and fight for what's theirs is much higher because it's coming at a much dearer price for them, it seems like. And I think that's kind of the same thing you were talking about with kids and, the hard way, learning stuff the hard way and having to learn those hard lessons versus the easy ones. When you learn it the hard way, you value it so much more and you're willing to fight and die for it, because you realize how much it cost to get there. It's when you're given things easily and cheaply that you tend not to value them.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes the same with, bailing out your family members or bailing out friends and whatnot, because, if you help someone in need, Josh, they're going to remember your name the next time they need you.
That's true.
Yeah, they're going to remember your name.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Jeff, let's kind of, because man, this is just so easy. What do you like best about what you do?
I love getting the satisfaction of seeing people grow.
That's
bottom line.
Great.
Bottom line. I have people that I have worked with that am prouder of them than anything that my own children have done.
Sure.
I have a group of 3 business partners. When I met them, always make the joke. These guys were so broke, they were sharing an iPad. They really were. They were driving. Yeah. And one of them just threw a fit because one of the guys had spent 40 or 50 bucks buying the keyboard for the iPad, and, if you look at these guys and you look at where they came from and what they did, I mean, they really, on paper, they should all be living in a homeless shelter now. Mm-hmm. And now they're all 7- and 8-figure earners. They built an enormous business in a short amount of time. I've have a number of people that I've worked with that just had that belief in themselves, and I've just helped guide them into the places they need to grow, and seeing the things that they. I have a similar gentleman in California who could barely speak English when I met him. He just bought a new jet.
Oh man!
About 6 months ago.
That's awesome.
And how proud that, because I had something to do with that.
Yeah,
I didn't do the work, but I had something to do with that. And that makes me just insanely proud. So that is what I like. There's 2 things. Number one, that's one thing. And equally the other thing too, is just because of the work that we do, there's a lot of families, when the breadwinner dies, they don't have to ask, where are we going to live? Are my kids going to have to go to school? Because losing someone is hard enough, but losing someone with no money, that's devastating. And so every person that we help do that, I get a lot of satisfaction from that, knowing that I had a small part to do with that as well.
Knowing that the product is good, it just it makes a huge difference.
Exactly.
So what do you think makes you good at this, Jeff?
It's just, the biggest thing to me is just building relationships with people.
And so what do you think gives you the edge in that? What creates this edge for you that has made you, because there's a lot of people that try to be in the same space that you're in, and you've really flourished in this. So what do you think gives you the edge?
It's really simple, because when I talk with someone, and this is equally important in sales, especially for all your realtors out there, that is, don't talk about how great you are. Don't talk about all the shit that you've done in the past. Ask questions. You should always be asking 90% questions and only talking 10% of the time. I work really hard to make people feel listened to and make them feel understood, because that's what everybody wants, is to feel listened to and feel understood. And that sounds simple, but most people don't do it.
Yep.
And so if you ask enough questions, just like if you have someone wanting to buy a house, you ask enough questions, they're going to tell you the house they want. They're going to tell you exactly what it is that you want. Makes your job a hell of a lot easier. Just say, okay, this is it right here. No more, no less. This is it right here.
Absolutely.
Just make them feel listened to and understood. And that's something that I've always been able to do. And like I said, it's a simple concept, brother, but most people don't do it.
Yeah, no, it's a true thing. It really is.
Yeah.
In sales in general, that is a great, I mean, in real estate, we suffer from the need to create credibility, but I agree with you 100%. If there's the least interesting thing in the room for me always is me. I am an also ran. But what I'm going to make sure of that you do know is that I know the thing because the one thing I know you come to me with when you come on real estate is you have a real estate problem.
Yeah.
Always. You have a house you need to sell, you have a house you need to buy. I also need to take and make sure that you feel like I'm the best suited person you ever met to help you solve that real estate problem. So I feel I have to get the scope of the size of the problem, which is asking you the questions.
Mm-hmm.
What is the particulars of your real estate problem? And then I need to take and make sure that you feel, because it's a feeling more than a case that needs to be made. I need to make sure that you feel like I'm the best suited person you've ever met to help solve that problem for you. Because
exactly.
The primary thing you come to me with is a problem and fear. You have a problem that you don't know how to solve, and you're afraid because you don't know how to do it. And so I'm there to take and say, hey, look, don't worry about being afraid. I know how to do this. Let me show you how we're going to get through this, and we're going to get this done really, really well. If I do that with avoiding exactly what you said, because this industry suffers from this, let me tell you how wonderful I am situation, we've got to get rid of that garbage.
Yeah. I mean, if I were in the real estate game, and if I were at a networking meeting and someone asked me, what do you do? I would say, hey, you know how crazy these prices are going in South Florida right now? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I help people that have houses like that get the most money they can for it.
Absolutely.
And shut up. You don't have to say any more than that. And they're going to ask, well, how do you do that? Or and the other thing too, people, when you talk with someone, get their name and use their name often, because people like to hear their name.
Sure.
Yeah, they like to hear their name.
And that actually goes right into what my next question was going to be, which one of the most important things you've learned in the process of what you do. So by all means.
Absolutely get their name. And if you and I met for the first time, Josh, and I told you about what I did and whatnot, I would use your name at least every third sentence.
Huh. Good stuff.
Yeah.
It's a very good tip.
Exactly. Again, listening to and understood, because if I'm using your name and if I'm asking you the right questions and I'm having some empathy, doesn't mean I have to agree with you, Josh.
Sure.
It just means I know where you're coming from. That's where the relationship begins.
Absolutely. And I mean, it is all about building relationships and doing it in the best possible way. Again, it's showing them that you're the kind of person that they want to have in their life and have that be a long-standing thing. Yeah. Because that's how a business is built. A business is built by having customers that come back over and over and over again. And so there's two ways to do any business. There's a transactional way, which means I'm going to be spending a fortune on advertising forever, because all I'm going to be doing is continuing to take and chase more business to take and bring it in to replace the business that I've been losing from not keeping these people coming back over and over again. Or I could, from the beginning, be closing, not transactions, but closing customers for life. Everything I do,
creating value,
is absolutely about creating an idea in their mind that, man, they're lucky to have found me, because I look out for them.
I have a great example about value. I love, there's few things that I really spend money on, but watches is one of them. I love nice watches. I was in New York City. This was probably 10, 12 years ago. I go in this place on Fifth Avenue, and there's this Russian working there. And I was asking him about this new limited edition Audemars Piguet that had come out, and he actually had one. And I looked at it. It was beautiful, put it on, looked great. And I said, here's the problem. I can buy the watch, but I can't see it. Well, I'm blind. So if I don't want to have to pull my glasses off, but put my glasses on every time I want to look and see what time it is.
Yeah.
He says, well, don't buy that watch. He said, actually, this is one I bought from him. So it's a Panerai. And he says, listen, Ray Charles can see the hands on this watch.
I
He said,
love it.
he said, you'll never have to put your glasses on to see what time it is unless you're totally blind. He says, when you buy that Audemars, it's going to be worth half when you walk out the door with it. But this watch is a limited edition. There are only 100 of them on the planet. It's 20% of what the Audemars is, but it's going to be worth double when you walk out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I bought the watch. Couple weeks later, I'm looking online and I find something, and all these watches are sold out. And I looked and it wasn't worth double, it was worth triple. So I'm like, this guy knows what the hell he's talking about.
And
every other watch, I bet I have spent $400,000 with this guy in total since then. He's the only guy I buy watches from because of the value. If there's something I'm interested in, I'll call him. If he thinks it's the wrong watch or it's not going to do this, he'll tell me. He doesn't care how much money he's going to make because he knows that as long as he's steering me right, that business is going to continue to come and I'm going to be a customer for life. But if he just screws me one time, I'll never call him again. He knows that.
And this is the thing, right?
And that's what value is.
He didn't want to sell you a watch. He wanted to sell you every watch you were ever going to buy.
That's exactly right.
And he made the investment up front to tell you. And what you bought that day wasn't a watch. You bought yourself a watch guy.
Yeah.
That's what you got yourself.
Yeah.
And this is now, if somebody comes to you looking for a watch, you got to go see I got this Russian guy. You got to go see my Russian guy.
I bet you I've sent him 10 people.
Exactly. Look, everybody wants to be the person that knows the guy.
You go to New York City, you like watches, go see this guy.
Everybody wants to be the person that knows a guy. We all want, I got a guy. No, I got a guy. You got to go. Right. Everybody loves being that person.
Yeah.
And so that's what I say. The customer, more than anybody, wants to be closed for life. The customer wants to know somebody like that. All we got to do is give them what they actually want. But the problem is we don't actually think about what it is they actually want and give it to them. That's it.
You know, if nothing else, people in business or in relationships, it doesn't matter. If you do what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, it's very simple. Most people don't deliver on that. Mm-hmm. Just do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, even when no one's looking.
Absolutely.
You're way ahead of the game. And that keeps this confidence intact. In fact, it makes your confidence level even grow north. Nothing eats away at it if you do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. That's with yourself and with others. Define yourself to yourself as a person of integrity. You do what the right thing, regardless of who's looking. I couldn't agree more. I was going to ask you what one piece of advice you'd give our listeners, and I think you're one. That was literally what was rolling around in my head. You're reading my mind at this twice,
point.
Man.
2 times.
That's twice.
So, how about this? What are you most proud of in business and in life?
What am I most proud of? Wow, that's a really. I'm proud of a lot of stuff, but. Honestly, without sounding egotistical, I'm proud of myself.
Awesome. Good stuff. Hey,
if you saw where I came from, I grew up in a very rural part of Georgia, just, hour south of Atlanta, middle of nowhere. Grew up in a really small community with really small-minded people and people that were, they were born there, they lived there, they died there. And they never saw anything past that little world. Yeah. And I blew past that.
That's beautiful.
And, I'm proud of a lot of other things, but a lot of the other things that I'm proud of, I wouldn't even know about had I not done the things that I'd done. So yeah, I'm most proud of myself.
Good stuff. I know you're a busy guy. You always got stuff going. What is next for you, Jeff? What's the project maybe you got in the back burner that you got cooking? What do you got next?
Well, the project I got going now is we're almost finished. I'm almost finished up with the book. It's going to be called Blame to Fame.
Okay.
And basically, it talks about how you take all the blame that you have in your life, because we all have it.
Yep.
And if you turn on the news, which I don't do anymore because it's just, it's terrible. But if I would say that if blame was an Olympic sport, America would win the gold medal every year, because we blame everybody for everything. People blame because it's so damn easy to do.
It lets them off the hook.
It lets them off the hook. But it's taking all the blame that you have in your life and turning it into rocket fuel to propel you to where you need to be. So I'm excited to have that book coming out probably in a couple of months. And also we're doing some workshops. I primarily have been working with insurance people and whatnot, but I really want to help people in other areas. People, attorneys, real estate people, small business people. Believe it or not, I actually work with a lot of physicians because everybody's in sales. Everybody's in sales. Everyone is. And it's just really the matter of not being a high pressure salesperson, but it's being an empathetic, listening, help person.
Sure.
Because no one wants to be sold, Josh, but everybody wants to be helped.
Absolutely. No,
it's not about creating a sale, it's creating value.
I couldn't agree more. Being persuasive by actually giving the customer what they really want. Because the thing is, they can't even voice it because they haven't even thought it through entirely. But if they see it, because look, I know in my business, if I make you feel like man, this guy really knows his stuff about real estate, and I make you feel like the watch guy does, that I'm looking out for you. Hey, look, don't take this deal. I know it looks good. I'm telling you, we can do better. Hey, look, you told me you'd take 282 for the house. I just got you 285. I hope you're not too mad at me for getting an extra $3,000. That if I'm doing that, I don't have anything to worry about, because that's what the customer's looking for, is somebody that's going to look out for them like you're their brother.
Yeah.
And if we can do that, man,
treat your money like it's their own.
Absolutely. Look, if you really got the customer down, like, hey, what is it you want?
Yeah. That's one reason why these agents want to list my house for less money, because it's a fast sale for them. It's a quick buck.
Absolutely.
I'm convinced of that. It's not what it's worth. It's what's working out best for them. Always work out what's best for your customer, not what's best for you. If you work out what's best for your customer, the money takes care of itself.
Honestly, Jeff, the way that I would, if I was going to approach it, the way that I would approach it is something along the lines of, hey, look, you know what? That number, let's do your number. There's only two reasons a house doesn't sell: the agent sucks or the number's no good. You got me, so we don't have to worry about the agent sucking. I know, and I would have made my case to you before ever saying that, but you would believe by the time I'm done talking to you that I know the market and what's going on. So let's take and put the price out there. Let's advertise the snot out of it and see if we can't get this done. Look, I make more money if you make more money. Let's do this. Let's get it. So it makes perfect sense. And if the market doesn't respond to our price, then we know it's the market, right?
Yeah. But I haven't had one agent tell me that, though, what you're saying. Not one.
Of course not, because
and you can't swing a dead cat around here without hitting a real estate agent. They're everywhere.
They are. That's what I said. Kick over a rock, 4 crawl out. It's a thing.
Everywhere. Yeah,
absolutely. And the problem is, and it blows my mind, Jeff. If there's two things they never talk about in real estate: the customer and the product.
Yeah.
I like, it's got to be because real estate's a bad product, right? Real estate's an amazing product. Yeah. It's one of the greatest wealth building tools ever invented in the history of humankind. They never talk about it. It's a big secret. And I don't understand why, because if I talk about real estate, you're going to see one thing really quickly. I love real estate. I own a bunch of real. I'm kicking myself that I can't buy more real estate right now. I'm trying to get longer in real estate because I want to have more income property, because I can see what's happening with inflation. Like, there's no two ways that rents are coming down anytime soon. There's no two ways that real estate prices are coming down anytime soon. It's not 2008. The value of money is going down. Guess what? The real estate hasn't changed. The money we're using to buy it with has changed. It's got to go up, right? The handwriting's on the wall.
So what do you think I have a different take on it. I don't think these interest rate hikes are really going to affect anything. I really don't, because, the first house I ever bought, Josh, was 11%, and that was considered damn good.
Yes, it was. Look, I just wrote a class, Jeff, because for me, Shut off the noise, shut off the pie hole, give me the actual research, do the actual hard work. So I wrote a class on inflation, and first thing I had to do is, obviously the market we're in right now is nothing like 2007 and 8, right? Because we don't have an oversupply situation caused by them pulling back all the money from the lending. But there's nothing that's going to make all the demand go away tomorrow. So the closest market that we have is the 1970s. 1970, the interest rates were about 7%. The average home price was $17,000 in the US. By 1979, the interest rates were 16.75%, and the average home price was $47,000, had almost tripled with interest rates at 16%. The only place you were safe in the 70s was in real estate. I don't know where else you were going to go. And if that was income producing real estate, by the way, the aggregate inflation for the 1970s was 103%. The average rents went up 125% in that period of time. So you're beating inflation with your rents. Oh, and your property appreciated 167%. Gee, I hope that's okay.
That's a no-brainer.
All day, every day. And plus, if you bought it in 1970, you locked in 7.5%. They're paying 17% by 1980. I mean, it's cake. It's so makes so much sense. But once again, when I teach this stuff, Jeff, when I talk about this stuff, John the Baptist here, I am the voice in the wilderness. Like, nobody else is talking about it. Nobody else is thinking about it. And I mean, I know, because I mean, my father owned a bunch of real estate going into the 80s. I remember what it was like, assignable mortgages. Why is nobody talking about assignable mortgages? It's obviously when interest rates go up, it's where we're going to have to be, you know, but nobody's talking about it. Nobody's interested in it because they just want to make a buck. How do I make a sale today? And I was just on a class earlier today, and the guy that actually runs the real estate office, the broker of my office, was on there. And while I have a broker's license, I just work under somebody. I do all this other stuff. So I never want to be a real estate broker. I want to take and just do what I do. So he said he trains his new agents. He says, look, there's two kinds of customers that come in. There's fruit and there's seeds. The fruit, it comes in, you're going to eat the fruit. It's great. But the seeds, you got to plant them. And a year from now, they're going to be fruit. And people don't do that. They're just trying to take and eat as much fruit as they can. And that's all they really care about. And it's so bad. Honestly, it's not just bad for the industry. It's bad for your soul, I think.
Because it really is. You have to, I mean, you have to look beyond today.
Absolutely.
You have to, it's like whenever I drive back to Georgia and see my mom, I drive through the middle of nowhere, and I'll see where all these pine trees got cut down and they're replanting them. Now, whoever is planting those pine trees will never see a dime from it because it's 30, 40 years. Yep. He's doing it for the next generation.
I'm literally, Jeff, I'm looking, I don't have a lot of sayings around me, but I have one taped to my computer screen that says, societies grow rich when old men plant trees whose shade they know they'll never sit in.
Wow.
And so, it reminds me.
That's the truth.
Absolutely. You go out there and you do the right thing and the great thing every day, regardless of whether or not you get the benefit, because it's the right thing, because it's the great thing, because it's the excellent thing that needs doing. I couldn't agree more. But you know what? Take a half a second and let me ask a little bit more of a behind the curtain question. Okay. What do you do to unwind, Jeff?
What do I do to unwind? I like to fish. I've got a really nice center console boat, and sometimes, but it's so busy on the weekends. A lot of times if I have like a few hours in the morning, I get out and run it during the week. I really don't like going out on the weekends because even though I live on the intercoastal and I'm on a really wide part of that, it's like a washing machine on a Saturday. There's just so much boat traffic.
Yeah.
So I love doing that. I ride mountain bikes. I love to do that, and I try to ride my mountain bike every day, even though I live in Florida and we don't have any mountains. But there's a lot of
garbage dumps. Yeah,
there's a lot of dirt trails that I like to ride, and it's amazing. It's amazing how much thinking you can do when you're riding a bicycle, or it's amazing how much thinking you can do and how much shit you can work out in your head just mowing the lawn.
I was going to say, I used to love get on the rider lawnmower and just start riding. And man, you can just,
it's almost like sitting with a Zen master. It really is.
I think it's all the noise from the motor. It's kind of like white noise. It kind of like, there's nothing else you can really do. And I completely agree, man. I grew up on 2.5 acres and I used to get my best thinking done. Just mowing that grass.
To me, a lot of people that I see, that a lot of their problem is that there's so many people that have to be constantly entertained.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be comfortable spending time with yourself. And that's where that confidence comes from. That's where that self-value comes from. You don't really need all this stimulation and whatnot constantly to make yourself feel better, because it doesn't work. You have to spend time for you. There are several things that I do every day that are just for me. They're non-negotiable. I don't break them for anyone or anything. And I have to do that because it's I know it's a worn out cliche, but when you get on the airplane, you have to put on your mask first before you help anyone else.
Yeah.
If you're not healthy, if you're not sane, if you're not, if your emotions aren't right, if your money's not right, and not only are you no good to anyone else, you're no good to yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to take care of yourself first.
Absolutely. You got to be, we all want to be the person that can be relied upon, that can be dependent upon. And if you're not in a healthy space, there's just no way to take and do that. And there's another great book. I don't know if you've ever read No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Read that one too.
That's a very, very good one. But the idea that, there are things that you need to take and you need to get you right before you're ready to take and be with or help someone else.
And you have to be very comfortable with telling people no.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be at peace with that. That's got to be okay.
You have to, and you have to set up boundaries too, Josh, and keep them there and let people. It's like, I don't like negativity in my life. I really don't, because I don't respond to it well. That's why I don't watch the news.
Yeah. No,
if I watched the news every day, I'd hate the world.
Absolutely.
I couldn't function. And I hate gossip. And I know there's lots of gossip in my business. There's a shit ton of gossip in your business. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the best advice that I can tell people is that even on a work level or a family level, if you ever get a phone call and somebody says, "Hey, don't tell Josh I said this," but that's when you go, if it's something that I can't repeat, don't tell me. I have enough shit going on in my life. I don't have the time or the capacity to keep a mental inventory of who to tell and who not to tell. And they go, "Yeah, but you think it's funny." I'm sure I would, but if I can't repeat it, I don't need to know.
I don't need to know. No, I agree.
I don't need to know. And you do that enough times,
people stop coming to you with it.
People stop coming to you with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, look, you set up the boundaries and the healthy relationships you have. Jeff, great stuff, buddy. Really great stuff. If folks wanted to find you, where would they go to find you and about what you do?
The easiest way to find me is I have a website, therealjeffwright.com. And my Instagram handle is also @therealjeffwright. And we have a link tree there that has links to everything that we do and whatnot. Follow us, look us up. If anyone has any questions about me, I'm the easiest guy in the world to get a hold of. DM me. My email address is in there. You can email me, whatever. I'm easy to find, and I try my best to respond to everything that people send me.
I love that, man, because I do the exact same thing, and I think it's the best and healthiest way to take and do things. You just treat people like they matter, and so many good things have just come from trying to just be a nice person and help people.
I even respond to the haters.
Yeah,
I love the haters, actually.
Honestly, criticism, especially like the better you do, the people criticize, but it's like all hyperbole. But sometimes there's a germ of truth in there, and that's what helps you to grow.
It is. I mean, yeah, I have some people complain to me about the haters they get on social media. And I'm like, if that bothers you, of some kid sitting in his basement eating Cheetos and watching porn and hating on your stuff, if that bothers you, then how's some real adversity going to affect you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, something that really is a problem.
Absolutely. Jeff, thank you. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you, brother. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Always fun to hang out. And so till next time, I'll see everybody back here.